Rev up your engines!
Ford is facing $1.3 billion in penalties on imported Transit Connect models. Now, if you didn't know, the Transits, originally they were making them in Turkey, then they were making them in Spain. Well, there's an import tax on commercial trucks, but not on personal vehicles. And they say that they're going to be making the new Transits in Mexico with the Ford Broncos, so who knows what's going to be happening in the future. But presently, they imported all these vehicles and they bypassed the law with a pretty sneaky thing. They introduced themselves as a personal cargo van, and they put a cheap cloth seat in it to make it look like it was a passenger van. It was a temporary rear seat. Didn't even match the upholstery of the rest of the vehicle, because cargo vans had a 25% tariff on them, where there's only a 2.5% one on personal vehicles. You remember ages ago, Subaru did it with their Brat little pickup truck thing. They put a seat in the back. In a pickup bed, and then it wasn't commercial anymore, right? That was the one that they pulled. They're being sued by the government because they said, hey, that fabric didn't even match. You just took the seats out as soon as you got them over here and sold them as commercial vehicles. Now, Mercedes did a similar thing with their vans years ago. They were making them in Germany. Then they took the engine and transmissions out, shipped them separately. Then they put them together in Carolina, where they said, well, they're manufactured in Carolina, so there's no import duty. Well, then later, Mercedes bought Freightliner. They got their own factory. They're building them here in the United States now, so that was in the past too. But Ford was pulling the fast one, sticking that little seat in there, and now they're coming after him saying, hey, you skirted the law with that one. So we'll see what happens, whether they get to pay these fines or not. I'm kind of thinking they probably won't. They'll cut some deal like they always do, where you think the money's going someplace and it actually goes somewhere else, like when Volkswagen got fined for their Dieselgate in the United States. Well, one of the deals of their fine was they're building Electrify America, electric plug-in stations, which, of course, if electric cars are popular, Volkswagen will actually make a profit on it. So it's not as cut and dry as you might think. Tesla's at it again. These Chinese are claiming that the Teslas have accelerated by themselves and crashed. The person was driving one said it just accelerated and ran into a pole. Of course, immediately Tesla returned fire by saying they don't know how to drive there. They just stepped on the gas and ran into the pole themselves. The Chinese driver of the Model Y said he lightly touched the accelerator and then just took off by itself and ran into the pole. And there was another man in China, in Shenzhen, China. He said his Model Y, he was locked in. He couldn't get out. Somebody had to break the window to get him out. Tesla claimed it was a power failure on that one. They're always blaming someone else. So it goes on where something happens to the vehicles and they always have to blame it on somebody else. Oh, it's the driver. Oh, it's a power failure. You don't see this stuff happening with other people's cars. How come it's always happening to them? You know why? Because they got poor quality control. They don't make the things very well. It's kind of obvious. And then they never stand behind it and blame it on something else. And that's a problem. If you ever do buy a Tesla, hey, nobody can work on it, but the guy's at the Tesla dealer. He won't share the repair information. I, as a professional mechanic, I have all data. I got information to work on about every car in the world, but I can't get it for Tesla because he doesn't give that information out. Not only are they whining about, oh, it's your fault, well, then when you're waiting to get it fixed, you wait forever because there's hardly any places to fix it, and there's no competition, and it can charge you whatever they want. Imagine if there were no aftermarket independent mechanics like me out there. You go to the dealer, they'd probably charge you $800 to change your wiper blades. Yeah, my advice, don't buy a car if the only people that can work on it are the dealer. Well, Elon Musk has canceled another car. The Tesla Model S Plaid Plus is canceled because Elon says there's no need for it. Now, if he canceled all of his other cars, which there's also no need for, then things would be perfect. They bragged about how it was the fastest car, faster than the Bugatti, broke the Bugatti speed record 0 to 60 and going faster than a quarter mile, 9.24 seconds. We're living in fantasy land here, of course. I mean, you can't drive a car like that in the street anyways. If you do, you're going to get in trouble or arrested. Now we're in the upper echelon atmosphere of insane car designs. He's not going to build it now. He says there's no need for it. Yeah, well, there's no need for most of the cars he's building, if you ask me. I tried about when I drove that Model Y, it was the worst riding car for that kind of money I've ever been in. And you felt every bump in the road with those heavy batteries. He needs a real design team to learn how to make suspension systems that ride well. I have to say, the Corvette that I rode in, the mid-engine Corvette, it had the adjustable suspension and it could ride tight for racing, but when you put it on the touring mode, it was real smooth. He should try some of that stuff off in his cars to try to make them so, yeah, you want to ride great, ride great. You want to ride smoother, make it so it rides smoother. They don't ride smooth. The Model Ys ride like crap. I don't know who he thinks he's competing with, you know? If he's competing with cars that are $60,000 to $80,000 and they ride like that? I can't see how anybody's going to buy those things. Sure, in the beginning, people buy them because, oh, they want the new Model Y, blah, blah, blah. But after a while, they say, hey, these are kind of crappy. I don't want one of these. 20% of the people in California who bought electric cars said they're not going to buy another one. They're going to get rid of theirs. So, Man Smith says, my engine coolant is boiling on an '01 Ford Focus. Got 200,000 kilometers on it. I was driving on a highway at 2,000 RPM. The engine light came on and the coolant was boiling. The car had normal temperature. I went to a trustful mechanic and a good electrician. He fixed my ECU and my alternator. It was okay for 200 kilometers, and all of a sudden, boom. He said it was a catalytic converter, but I can't see how that can have anything to do with the water boiling. Now I'm afraid of my car. Help. Okay, well, one, it's an '01 Ford Focus. It's probably in the end of its lifespan anyways. If that guy was correct, the catalytic converter can cause your water to boil. What happens is, when you're driving down a road, all your hot exhaust gas has to be expelled out through the muffler, right? Through the exhaust system. Before the muffler is the catalytic converter. If the catalytic converter is overheating and clogging up, it builds up hot air in the engine, and the engine will overheat and start boiling. I see that all the time. If that guy was correct and your catalytic converter is bad, that's exactly what will do it. And with that mileage on a Ford Focus, it wouldn't surprise me at all that the catalytic converter has gone bad. I have a real mechanic check it out, guy who does nothing but emissions and catalytic converter work, and he'll probably tell you the catalytic converter is gone. All he has to do is pressure test it, and he can find out, okay, yeah, it's clogging up, and you need to replace it. It will make a car overheat. Builds up too much heat, can't expel from the engine, then the engine starts to heat and the coolant boils over. May Rankin test says, my car is a full body wobble at 58 to 60 kilometers an hour. Ford Mustang, 2015 with 97,000 on it. Full body wobble happens at the same speed, regardless of engine RPM or gear. I changed the tires, changed the front suspension, did wheel balancing, installed the used drive shaft. It's still between 58 and 60 kilometers an hour. I know my rear suspension needs repair, but vibration is specific, irrespective of acceleration, deceleration, neutral, not something related to suspension. I hate to tell you, but it is related to your suspension. I've seen that all the time. And you know you got a problem in the rear suspension, always fix the problem you know first before you start doing other stuff. If you get a full body wobble, it's almost always something in the rear suspension. If you got a problem in the front, you're going to get the steering wheel shaking and pulling and stuff. But if you get a full body wobble, it's always in the back. Sometimes as simple as the shocks in the back. Sometimes if you got rear control arms, the control arm bushings are gone, so it wobbles in the back. But it's always the back that gives you the full body wobble. So fix your suspension in the back first. Anytime you get a full wobble, you got a problem in the back on a car or van. Sally818 says, should I keep my 2019 Altima SL or get a 2018 Mazda 3 Touring? Here's the thing. I would never bought a 2019 Altima in the first place. The quality isn't that good. But if you can't get much money for it, you might as well keep it. You're upside down big time now. You owe so much more money on that thing than it's worth. But if some fool will trade you even a 2018 Mazda 3 Touring for that thing, do it right away. Get it, change the titles, and get out of town as fast as you can, because that would be one of the best deals you ever did. Even if you're going to lose a little bit of money, do it now. But if you're going to lose a ton of money, say you're going to lose 10, 15 grand, you might as well keep the Altima and drive it a while. One of the worst things to do is to get a vehicle that new and then get rid of it, because you're going to lose your shirt. Lance B131 says, I got a 1993 Town and Country van. How can I remote program the stock remote? I bought a new one, but I can't figure out how to do it. Okay, it's really bizarre. You open the door, close the doors, all kinds of stuff you can do. So what you do is get out your phone, type in how to program a 1993 Town and Country van remote controller. It'll come up. Guy's got all the information. Open the door, close the door, and just follow that. When I get stuck with a problem with computers, first thing I do is Google it. What can I do to fix this? Where can I buy that? You can find just about anything. The other day, when I was on vacation, the washing machine broke. It was a German Bosch washer. Pile of junk as far as I'm concerned, because the door broke off, right? The handle. So all I did was take it apart, and the handle had a number on it. I told the owners of the cottage I was staying at, order this door and I'll put it in. So they got that number. They went and Googled it. They bought the door. It came in the mail, and I screwed it on, and I fixed the Bosch washing machine that I knew absolutely nothing about just by watching a video and Googling it. And they Googled the number. Anytime you're stuck with a very specific problem like that, just Google it. Follow step by step. It might take you 2 or 3 tries. I just did one for my wife's Matrix. I got an extra remote. It took me a couple of tries because you had to open door, close door, open door, close door. And eventually it programmed and it worked, and away I went. I'm not going to remember that stuff. Nobody's going to remember that stuff. Maybe a savant could remember that stuff because they've got this thing about order and doing things one at a time. But an average person is never going to remember it. So just Google it and you can find it out. It's pretty easy. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.